Now we have seen why we need planning. Then we'll see what to plan and how to plan. So when we come to the point what to plan, this looks a very trivial question, but trust me, these are the small thing which we think it is small, but this plays a major role in project success, and also it makes you an expert or a expert project manager, because at the end you need to have a definite scope to plan, right? And also you need to pick which is important and for the project time being for currently, and which is not. So definitely when we speak about what to plan, the deliverables part comes in. Traditional project planning is focused around task, and that basically because there was clear requirement. So when there are clear requirements, you can definitely plan like that. You can just say these are the tasks and it's going to happen. But now the world has becoming dynamic. There are, and I think all of you will agree, there are n number of things comes up in day to day planning. So it can't be just a task focus, and at the end again I'm just emphasizing on the part that we are dealing with a team which consists of 50 members or 100 members. Then it can't happen that we just focus on the task and things will get done. It is impractical to assume that. So you come up with daily some or the other people issues. The people might be sick, they might be going on vacation. So many things comes into. So jobs that you need to do or actions you need to take, that is just not the thing. At a first glance, this might seem sensible. A task based plan will literally give you a list of items that you need to do, like to do lists for the entire project. But what is the problem with the task based approaches, however, is that they are hard to measure. I think all of us will agree that our day to day life will become easy as a project manager when you split the task. I always say that we need to split the task, the deliverables in such a in a such a manner so that the it is measurable, like so that how you will track if you can't measure those tasks, it will not be easy, right? Like how when you ask a team member, like, have you completed this work or not, that the task should be measurable so that they can say yes, this is 80% complete, this is 100% complete, likewise. So if you have a, because these helps in the tracking, if you have a measurable task, if you have completed 80% of your task, does that mean that 80% of the project is complete? How can you measure whether a task is 10% complete or 90% complete? This problem is particularly common in knowledge work, where there are a lot of there are difficulties in sometimes in developing algorithm or designing the right layout, which can take much more time than we expected. So I agree completely to this, that when we break down the deliverables, when we are planning the deliverables, then it is very important. Again, this all depends on the type of the project. There can be a situation where you are handling a project which is very simple, like you know the project very well, you know the client's business very well, and it is just a simple change request, the project, small project where it scope is well defined, then okay, the task base would really fit in, and also here the team also knows the job well, then it is fine. But when it comes to a large project, when it comes to a highly complicated project where you have to build in from the scratch in the software area, or if you take any other real time project in construction business or something like that, then definitely the task base, yes, this is to be done, and it is not going to be useful because the world has become agile. So you have daily some or the other issues coming up. And also what happens in these task based, when we usually nowadays we have project, because the technology is moving fast, and we have in software lot of projects where the team and ourselves, we are not aware of the technology, we are not aware of their advantage and disadvantage, how to use it. So in those cases, you yourself, if you're not knowing the domain, if you're not knowing the technology, then how you will be able to plan it, right? And because you're yourself not sure, so if the team is telling it has completed the work or not, you will not be able to gauge it. The similar problem I have faced when I was planning a new project. I was building from the scratch an ERP project, which has to have, first of all, we need to study the old framework and we need to come up with the disadvantage and provide a solution. In this case, there were a lot of options and available, so we ourselves were not sure, so we have to take the external technical expertise help and then come to a planning. And in those cases, in those such kind of project, you need to even take the help of the expertise to groom, to mentor your team and yourself to the with that new technology. So that's why the task based approach in those kind of project is not helpful. So if we are not planning tasks, then what we should plan instead? So that is where the comes the part is deliverables. If you're uncertain, I'm sure 80% of the project nowadays, and especially in software industry, we are uncertain because of the lot of complexities involved. So, and sometimes, as I earlier again and again telling, the client itself is not sure because there is a disconnect between the end user and the client, and it become, then when we deliver the project, then these things comes up in the picture, when it was when the user does not accept the product. So when on such occasion, when we are not sure about the situation, then comes the deliverables in the deliverables comes into the picture. We should plan deliverable, the actual end product of your project. It can be machines, building, cash, or intangible like software, a brand identity, and so on. These deliverables depends on the project you are working on, and also it depends on the situation to situation. As an expert project manager, it is your duty to identify deliverables. When we say deliverables, again, to avoid unnecessary headache and overhead, and it becomes, the planning becomes an overhead. It should not come to a situation where the planning itself becomes an overhead. You should know what are the deliverables, like even in uncertain situation, right? Like we can have, yeah, we are building a prototype, that can be a deliverable. So in each situation there can be deliverables which entirely depends upon your project. The difference between a task and a deliverable is that the task is a job you are busy doing, like building, designing, creating, while the deliverable is a product you end up with, like the end product, a document, a design. So when, as a project manager, when the planning is focused on deliverables, there is high point of clarity, and also the client will also be happy that you're working on something, and it is easy to communicate. With some tasks, it can be difficult to identify the associated deliverables, but you should always focus on the end product rather than the task itself. For instance, in a software project, the team might spend a lot of time on the task of writing documentation, detailing the designs. But what really matters at the end of the day is the documentation or design itself. I have seen lot of projects, and even I have committed those. I'm specifying that in this project manager's course, I want to give you practical examples where, as a manager, maybe we have committed those mistakes, so that as an experienced project manager, we don't repeat it further. So I have done in many project, when initially when I was handling a project of a small team, then I used to be very process oriented, but to the extent that I didn't maintain the balance, and the team always used to focus on the documentation, get the sign off, and then we will start the work. But in actual scenario, I'll tell you what happened if you're too focused on those things. Like there are projects where the client pays you on the fixed big contract, that if you deliver something, then the billing happens. So it's important for the project manager to plan the deliverables, the end product. And if you start focusing too much on documentation also, it's very bad, because in client side also, it's not the only project they are handling. So then it becomes that your team will give the documentation and then they will sign off. Sometimes the rigidity is not possible practically, right? So that's why it is important that we should know how much percentage of our time, team's time, should go in in the documentation writing, and these things we can plan accordingly. The perils of the percentage complete measuring, if you see the perils of the percentage complete, because when your senior management asks what okay, for a deliverable, which stage you are in, because always you can't, especially in the software products, you can't show them a product because it takes certain time, and if it is a new technology it takes more time. So in those cases what you will do, then you will say yes, this requirement phase is this much complete, this much percentage complete. Measuring the percentage of tasks complete or similar technique is an extremely dangerous practice sometimes. The biggest problem that it is very subjective meaning, that if I say 10% complete, 90% complete, so why is this a problem? It is again, it I'm saying the percentage complete could be definitely problematic in some stages, because it is when we say 10% complete, it is on a very high level, we are not detailing out. So if we are planning the deliverables, so we can show to our senior management also, I'm sure they will agree that yes, we have completed the prototyping, we have complete, so that become that is more sensible in say than saying yes, the project is completed 10%. That doesn't define anything. The problem of percentage complete is people are over optimistic. How often have you thought something would take half the amount time that it actually took? And sometimes it's not honest, and sometimes when the senior, I've seen in senior management review and even in your own review, when you are asking your team, I have seen, I'm giving these tips so that we don't make these mistakes again and we learn from these mistakes, is I have seen in many of the projects, in when I used to handle initially, I used to ask the team, okay, this task and the general task, how much is complete? This is especially it happens in the software project team, where they'll say yes, this product is 50% complete, this product is 60% complete. But that doesn't, because you can't discuss those, it becomes very very higher level. So when we talk about the deliverables, then the tracking becomes easier, then we won't have last moment surprises. And actually your project, in myself I have handled such team where then the people come to you and say that yes ma'am, this is completed, and then again the project has not been completed, or then we have to face the deadline has not been achieved. So all these things we have faced. Then works up expands to fill the available item. Even if a task seems to be half done after 2 days, if you have allocated 6 days to it, there's a good chance that it will take 6 days to achieve. Because when we say percentage complete, it becomes very difficult, and yeah, we will be assuming something, so the tracking becomes very higher level. So we have seen, and definitely the next point will be not to be over optimistic.